There was an understanding from the get-go that when I was born that I would be in music in one way or another. I grew up in a very musical household. My dad was a musician, my mother was a dancer, all my grandparents musicians. This is the city of Boyle Heights. This is the city where I was born. I was born in a hospital right down the road here, and this is what's known to the locals and everyone as Mariachi Plaza. So on a weekend, you'll see a lot of mariachis just gathered here. People will drive by and pull up to the curb and say, hey, I need 5 musicians for a wedding, I need 4 musicians for a funeral, whatever, and it'll be a different group of people almost every time, just people that don't really know each other, and they'll just jump in the back of a truck and they'll play some standards that everyone's familiar with, and I feel like that's something very unique amongst our culture and that type of music. They're making a living doing what they're passionate about. They're making music and making people happy. When my dad was a teenager, he played in a group with all his brothers and my grandpa, and they all played together at this restaurant. The mariachi dinner show was a very popular thing that really came about, I want to say, around the 50s or so in downtown LA. And those restaurants started branching out and more of them started popping up, and he decided to start his own group in the 80s, open his own restaurant called Cielito Lindo, and that's been, you know, the centerpiece of my family since then. So this is the entrance to Olvera Street, one of the oldest streets in Los Angeles. Used to be part of Mexico. And you got vendors for pretty much everything. It reminds me of going to Juarez, Mexico when I was a kid, because you just have these little stalls where you could get loteria cards, sugar skulls, a crucifix, a yo-yo, lucha libre mask. As far as playing mariachi music goes, that didn't really set in until I was about maybe like 8 or 9 years old, and my dad bought me a trumpet. There was this understanding that, all right, that's it, you know, family business, you're the next generation. He got me the best trumpet lessons in town, and I would go every weekend with either him or my mom to a different restaurant and watch the mariachis play. I had my favorite trumpet players, my favorite guitar players, vihuela players, my favorite singers. And that lasted for years, you know. I thought that's what I was gonna do. Fast forward a few years after that, I'm about, I wanna say 12 years old, and my dad shows up to my house with a big box, and there's an electric guitar and an amp in there. Freaked out my mom. She's like, you know, if you give him a guitar, he's not gonna want to play trumpet anymore, you know, he's just gonna want to do rock music. And poor guy, he was certain that I'd keep it up. When the kids at your school find out you play electric guitar, all of a sudden, like, oh, I'm gonna go buy a bass, or I have a drum set. So 8th grade, I was already practicing every week with a band, playing like Silverchair and Smashing Pumpkins cover songs, and being a 14-year-old playing these bars with people twice my age and triple my age, playing all down the Sunset Strip, the Roxy, the Whiskey, all these places. You know, that brought me to what we're doing now. We revisit a lot of these places, playing to new audiences. That's the kind of band we want to be. We want to be road dogs, you know. We want to stay out on the road. We want to make new fans in every city. We want to be able to pull in thousands of people in every city. And in the last year, we've gotten a lot of incredible opportunities to open for some of these huge bands that we grew up listening to. And it really gave us a taste of hopefully, you know, what's to come, you know. We want to be headlining those arena shows. We want to be headlining those festivals. With making our music and writing new music and putting out new albums, that's the area where I just want to make sure we're always pushing ourselves. I want to put out a different album every few years, you know. I don't want to do the same thing twice, ever. I'm very open about my love for my culture and my love for mariachi music, and that I'm passionate about it. You know, that's when I'm at home, that's what I want to listen to. Like that's my favorite type of music. Like if I'm in my car, I'm listening to my dad's record. You know, he put out one of my favorite records of the last year, and him being my dad has nothing to do with that. It would still be one of my favorites because it's a style of music that I appreciate and I've grown to love, and I want to share that with people. Even though I'm not making that music, I'm very outward about educating people about it. In Mexico, if you talk to people about who's the top tier of musicians in this style, and my family they're the center point of a lot of those conversations, which, you know, those could be very big shoes to fill, but I know my role in all of it and I'm comfortable with it, you know. I'm the one in the family that decided to break off and do rock music, and as long as I'm doing it to the best of my ability while still acknowledging the past and not turning my back to it at all, I feel like they're always going to be proud of what I'm doing.